Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've been very interested in the impact, very interested and worried, frankly, about the impact of COVID-19 on a lot of local businesses. And just the other day, we interviewed Jake Pedler, the chairman of the Port Credit BIA, and John Pappas, proprietor of a restaurant in Port Credit, the Crooked Q. Jake Pedler also is a proprietor of Spice Lounge. And they talked about how tough it had been for Port Credit. And so I thought I'd reach out to another gentleman who owns one of my favorite establishments called Cabin in Port Credit, Louis Manzo. Cabin is a newer facility, and maybe you'd call it a barber shop, but I don't think so. It's like a men's cabin. It's a man's den, and a wonderful place to go get your haircut, your beard shaved, buy some stuff. Anyway, Louis Manzo, welcome to our show. How are you?
Well, thanks, Brian. I'm really well. Happy to be here.
So tell me, how has COVID been for you and your business?
Well, certainly we fall into that category of retail, although we're a personal services business because we provide grooming services. We still fall in the category of retail. And so like everyone else in the early days, it was a lockdown and shutdown that really kind of halted any activity at the shop. We closed earlier than most were required just because we were really concerned about the safety and well-being, not only of our community, but our teams that are in the shops. We've got 3 locations, one in Port Credit and 2 in the downtown area on Waterfront and Union Station. And so, during that time, we took that time to really kind of establish what we would look like when we came back, what type of safety protocols would need to be put in place. And we were told by many people that it's going to be amazing once we do get back because everybody's going to need a haircut, And we jokingly say that you can still see your hair on Zoom. So this is an essential service of some sorts, of course, tongue in cheek. But the reality is that when we did come back to being able to serve our community and our customers, we didn't enjoy that busyness that everybody expected, certainly not in the downtown core. Our shops, it was difficult seeing people in the shops at any given time only because there's no traffic in those downtown cores. People aren't going to their offices any longer, and that really puts a dent in the kind of traffic.
I was downtown at a meeting in an office tower last week. It was like a ghost town. If you've got a facility in Union Station, I just can't imagine how bad traffic is.
I mean, I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but it really feels in a lot of respects like post-apocalyptic. I've mentioned that before, where one day you're talking of upwards of 300,000 people going through that center. It's the most traffic center in Canada. And, in seeing it now when you might get 300 in front of your shop, it changes the dynamics. It changes the attraction. It changes the energy, quite honestly. And we've had to recognize that it's a major shift in the way we do business. And so we've taken as many, we've been looking to other industries and other markets to see how they're responding and what they're doing to kind of keep the doors open. And we're doing as much of that as we can. But quite honestly, it's such an incredible challenge just to be able to keep our teams active, keep them occupied, because the minute that they don't have something to do, if you're talking about barbers, they need to keep themselves busy. And if they don't, then they get a little squirrely and nervous. And, rightfully so. We got to make sure that there's revenue streams that are coming in from all over to support the businesses. And that's been really, really compromised in the last little while. Certainly.
Now, you said that when you reopened, people didn't come back. What do you think people are doing? Are they just cutting it themselves? Or are they letting their hair grow? Are they getting people to come into their houses?
Well, it's all about behavior and kind of like their threshold for pain when it comes to how they interact and how they assimilate back into the world when they're given permission to do. And Port Credit, we're fortunate. We've had a longer relationship in Port Credit with our customers and our community than we have in the downtown shops. And that said, we had tremendous support here. So for that little blip, there was probably 4 weeks of constant bookings, and it was nice to see that. But of course, the minute the numbers started reporting an upward trend, then we saw a significant decline in business. We saw cancellations because people rightfully so were feeling uncomfortable and didn't know what they were allowed to do and what potentially could come of it. So we saw cancellations, we saw appointments not being filled on a day-to-day basis. And in Port Credit, I mean, pre-COVID, we would have saw a full schedule every day for up to 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So that for us has been a significant change. People, I think,
know I tried to get a shave at your place. I think I had to wait 3 weeks to get an appointment. Anyway, we're chatting with Louis Manzo.
I wish that wasn't the case, but I mean, it was a good problem to have, I think.
It was a great problem for you, not for me. We're chatting with Louis Manzo of The Cabin right now. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting with Louis Manzo, proprietor of The Cabin. Louis, what do you call it? Is it a barber shop?
We're a traditional men's barber shop. We add the word haberdashery in there because it really helps define some of the things that we carry. We put on the shelves lifestyle goods, grooming goods, pocket squares, bow ties, shoelaces, and underwear, and everything from the likes of whiskey accessories right down to the stuff that makes you feel good and smell good, when it comes to grooming, pomades, lotions, colognes, and the likes. So I think it's really, you described it earlier, and I thought it was pretty good, but it becomes a men's safe haven. And we're not excluding our lady friends. Some of the best compliments we've ever got were a result of our lady friends coming in the shop to either find gifting, book appointments for the guys in their lives, their sons, uncles, brothers, husbands. And then, of course, we've got a small handful of ladies that like shorter style haircuts, so we like to take care of them as well. I mean, our big thrust is a gentleman style haircut, hot towel shaves and the likes. And of course, we put all these accessories together that make it easy for us to want to be able to pick up something to give as a gift, but more importantly, to take as a gift. So that's the premise of Cabin, as it were.
I got a gift once for a hot towel shave, and it was pretty good. I have to tell you, I enjoyed it. You obviously don't need it, or don't want it, but it was really quite an interesting experience.
Well, thanks for that. We tend to say it's like you're booking a mini vacation. You get a chance to check out of the world and into your own headspace and into an environment like that. It's got this old school, romance to it where barbershop bantering and colorful conversations and camaraderie is all part of the mix.
What motivated you to launch a barbershop? Like, I just can't imagine. It's, one of the most profitable ventures in today's world.
Well, I saw that there was a need and a hole in the way we operate as guys. We lost the traditional old school men's barber environments where it would be part of the routine and you would set yourself up for a regular routine. If you're talking about the 40s and the 50s and even in parts of the 60s, when barbering was just a part of your schedule. And as a guy, you'd make sure that for the weekends you were cleaned up and taken care of. And as we evolved the barbershop environment, it ended up kind of falling by the wayside, and we turned into hair salons, unisex. And I thought that there was a need to get us back to that old school charm, that environment that I grew up in, only because my father was a traditional and still is a traditional old school men's barber that had, a very cool environment for his community of customers and clients, and then their kids and their friends and their families. All the guys would somehow converge on the barbershop. And I thought that there was something missing in the way we operated, and we need that. And we needed a place to call our own, like the safe haven, as it were. And for me, if you want to talk about safe haven, it really is a cabin in the woods. It's kind of this rustic environment that makes you very happy about being there. You feel invited and warm, and it's charming, and it's got all of the little knickknacks that you enjoy seeing around you. And so that's where the idea of Cabin came from. And then, of course, when you marry that with the notion that you could put cool, well-made, quality products within reach, it makes it an easy answer for guys.
But I think you've taken it to a different level. Every single time I've come into your establishment, there's been people sitting around chatting. Often some people outside the front. And then you do an incredibly good job with special events. I've gone to your establishment a couple of times when there's been wine tastings there. And then you've got your big parties that you throw in the front yard. What is it? Like, you're connecting with the community in a very special, unique way, aren't you?
I think any business, certainly this one, lends itself to the idea that if you're creating experiences and you're creating points of recall and you're influencing people's happiness, then you've got the beginnings of a good recipe. Add to it a quality service, a great product, and in an environment that people really feel comfortable in, then you've got a really solid solution. I think that, our commitment to community is first and foremost. I mean, we've got to create exceptional experiences from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave. We even like that experience to make its way into the homes of our customers, so that when they get home and their girlfriend, wife, or their partner says, "My God, like, look how great you look," or "You smell like $1,000,000." I mean, that's a part of the experience to us. We wanted to make sure that we made our way into the houses and the personal lives of our customers. And in doing that, we created events so that, not unlike you described, a wine tasting or a whiskey night or something special for our customers. We've done, on average, we would do an event every 6 to 8 weeks at our locations where we would invite our customers and their friends to be able to create this community hub, this vibe. And if we could at that time create a benefactor to that, then we would, like the idea behind donating to a charitable cause in the neighborhood, or something that the community's rallying behind. That was a chance for us to say, let's use our reach, let's create an experience, and let's do something good for the people that need it most, and that's been our commitment since day one at all locations. It's to be more than simply a place to go spend your money and to get cleaned up. It really is about, creating a good environment. And if we did a good job, we've created a feel great environment. And that's my goal always, that we've had people leave feeling great.
But it's interesting, you describe this as creating experiences, not just creating events. And the typical old style barbershop that you describe, I'm not sure what your dad's was like, but the typical old school barbershop didn't have events or experiences like you described. Where did this idea come from to hold these wine tastings, whiskey tastings, rock and roll concerts out front, et cetera?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it came from, if it was going to entertain me and my team, then there's a good chance there's a whole community behind us that wanted the same. However, I've got a background in corporate events, national sales meetings, conferences, trade shows. So it's always been my goal to entertain an audience of some sort. And so in this case, we just happened to really understand the audience that was made up primarily of people just like us. And when you mix in these number of different personalities, and you get an opportunity to entertain them, to make them feel great, then that for me was a natural extension of the business that I have on this side and the business that I wanted to create on this side. Cabin was a culmination of all of the experiences that I've brought into my career, my professional career, and a chance for me to do it in a way that, makes a bunch of people very happy.
Tell me about your entertainment event business, if you could.
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate that I've had a successful branding and marketing brand enhancement business for now 21 years. It's unheard of in a lot of cases. We're a small organization with a group of very talented, creatives that pull together the likes of national sales meetings, product launches, trade shows. If there was an internal communication or a campaign that needed to be created, that would be a project that we would work on. And I've worked on now just under 10,000 projects in 21 years. So we're really proud of the fact that we've, kind of found our space. And I think in the last maybe 8 years, we've concentrated almost solely in pharmaceutical. So we'll program national sales meetings, conferences, internal communication pieces, as well as campaigns for their customers across the board. It just so happens that pharmaceutical made a lot of sense, and it was a place that I liked to play because I had a choice personally of who we could serve, and I was able to find pharmaceuticals that do some remarkable work, when it comes to how they affect and change people's lives by the programs that they create. So I attached my agency to work that was really meaningful in the communities and to the people that they were helping. And that to me was another chance to make and have people feel good.
Louis, what's happened to that business? It must have been devastated by COVID-19.
It was devastated beyond belief. I mean, at an immediate halt within 1 month, all contracts for 2020 were canceled. We were looking down the barrel of a shotgun, not recognizing what could come to life and where we were going to go. And is this really 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years? However, I put on a bit of a futurist hat. I looked in the crystal ball for a little while and decided that the only way we're going to actually help the clients that we currently serve is to move to an online platform to create that big P word, which everybody uses and I love, which was to pivot. We took our live event experience, we took our live programming for all of their communication requirements, and we turned them to an online platform. And we partnered with some of the best in the industry to be able to help see what we do in live event translate properly into online virtual events, and quickly recognize that we do it really well. In the last, I guess, 2 months, we've had now 5 national meetings online virtually, and every one is a chance for us to improve what we'll be doing next. We keep on coming up with that never ending wish list of wouldn't it be cool if, and so we add into it, live music, we add into it, bringing on facilitators and hosts, gamification. We pull in a bunch of really cool things that we would have done in the real live world and have now translated them into what happens online. And it's been terrific. I got to be honest, I'm an optimist to begin with, but the creativity that has come out of my team and the people around us, even our clients, in how they approach what we're about to present to them, has everybody kind of collaborating. And it's been an incredible journey in the last 2 months. And we're now planning for the big meetings in January and February, which it's an all hands on deck for my team. So we're back to being very busy, which is, it's a welcome change in the fact that a lot of people aren't. And so I'm respectful of the fact that a lot of people are still out there trying to figure out how to make this work.
A lot of people are still struggling.
Yeah, there's a lot of struggle, and it's something that's going to be very difficult for us all to face, because it could be your neighbor, it could be your family member, and we have to recognize that not everybody's in the best of positions right now. We've got to be sensitive to that.
Louis, you used a term that I've heard a lot lately, but I'd like you to explain it. Gamification. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, it's the opportunity to inject a fun, engaging game into whatever you're doing, whether it's a live or virtual event. So it could be as simple as a trivia component that'll have everybody play and connect, and then we would reward people's participation with points for how well they did in that challenge. We would create a series of challenges throughout a virtual meeting that could have people now find themselves ranking on a leaderboard just because they were, they would kind of, they would produce a result. So they would join a game, they would answer questions, they would watch a video, and, we wrap fun around the event. So gamification is a great way to be able to pull fun into your events.
We're chatting tonight with Louis Manzo, who is the proprietor of, I guess, Cabin Barber Shop and how do I pronounce that word? Haberdashery. Haberdashery on Lakeshore in Port Credit, but also in Queens Quay and in Union Station downtown. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Louis and his the impact of COVID-19 on his business in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking about COVID-19 and its impact on business. Specifically, I'm interested in Port Credit. We've chatted with Jake Pedler, who is the proprietor of Spice Lounge in Port Credit, and also with the proprietor of the Cricket Q. And we're now chatting with Louis Manzo, who runs the Cabin Barbershop and Haberdashery in Port Credit. But It's not quite Park Credit. Like if a lot of people had given you location advice, I'm surprised that they would have suggested putting your facility in an old building, halfway to Lakeview. Tell me about your location decision.
And so, yeah, when we were choosing locations, we had a lot of options. Port Credit, of course, I'm, very connected to. I also, I've been living here for a long while. I thought it'd be a good idea if we opened our first location close to home, so that I could be present and connected to my community. Um, but I typically look for things that other people don't look for. I found probably one of the most rundown buildings on the lakeshore in an area that was about to go under a major construction, and it's changing in the landscape of what that looks like. We're smack dab in the middle of Lakeview and Port Credit. As a matter of fact, that's a conversation that gets people very heated. According to the BIA, we are at the edge of Port Credit. According to Lakeview, we are well into the Lakeview area. So we're comfortable to be and happy to be part of both communities. But when I went in there, my goal was to wave the flag and say, just wait to see what this community looks like once more businesses like Cabin show up. And that was the goal there. I didn't want to go into an area that was over trafficked. I wanted to go into a place that was about to see a major shift in the way we view that community. And for me, it's close enough to home to be very comfortable.
I wouldn't have thought a barbershop is a destination retail establishment, but I guess you've proven me wrong.
Well, I'm happy to prove you and any naysayers wrong. When we actually started building out that business in Port Credit, I had somebody approach me and say, why would you be interested in putting a barbershop on the lakeshore? There's 36 places they can cut their hair between here and Clarkson. And I said, that's very true. A choice is everything. But I looked at it like there's not going to be any place like Cabin, and we're going to be very specific in how we, market this business. And as a result of that, the marketing of this business has been 100% referral and otherwise through the events we host. So, it's a destination. There's no question. We've seen well over 10,000 guests walk through the doors in Port Credit. And that to me is just a perfect, opportunity to go back to the person that said there's too many places to do the same thing. You all have choices. We can choose Levi's or, another brand of jeans or another hotel to stay at. It all comes down to what you feel most comfortable with and what you're connecting to.
That said, your business has been dramatically impacted by COVID-19, and you've had to close down and maybe broaden it out to think about some of your other peers in the Port Credit BIA and along Lakeshore, if you could. Are people going to be able to survive? And what do people need to do to survive and bring people back when we ever get some openings up, do you think?
I think, first of all, retail, as a result of this, is going to change significantly in the way it operates. There has to be an online component. You have to make sure that you've got a commerce side of your business. If you don't, then you potentially have less opportunity to survive this. I think there's going to be casualties like no tomorrow. There's just no chance that we can continue doing what we're doing if we don't have visitation, because our health officials are making recommendations that certainly make a lot of sense, but that now takes people off the street and prevents them from wanting to come into your shop. So that's number one. Number two is that once we are given permission, we still have to overcome the behavior that's happened that now is being ingrained in people about what they can and can't do. And that significantly changes the way they operate as well. Let's face it, the financial crunch that's been put on not only our businesses, but individuals. If you're fortunate enough to have had a job that didn't take anything away from the way you made income, you're very lucky, because a number of people haven't. So that means there's less money to spend. And let's face it, I mean, as much as, we want people to come in and have the experience and get cleaned up and feel confident, because there's a lot to do with mental health and your your outlook when you feel great. And so there's a connection between the two. We want people to feel great, but they're going to be comfortable and okay if they had to push off that haircut for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's not part of their regular routine right now. And for those that are, it's a very important piece of the regular routine. I want to make sure that we're there to do it. But quite honestly, even if it comes down to the neighbors that I have in Port Credit as businesses, we've seen a major shift in the way people are trending. It's gone down. Revenues have gone down. The experience in the shops has changed. It's been our goal since day one we got back to create an environment that really tries to mimic what it was like pre-COVID. But that's so difficult when somebody's got a mask on, and you're trying to communicate, and you're having this, this conversation about the virtues of this incredible pomade for your hair, like the character strengths of this product. It becomes really challenging when you're masked and you feel like you've got to rush through it. It's no longer as inviting or personal as we'd like it to be. So that's a real challenge. If it wasn't for the likes of some of the government programs, I think we would have been sunk much faster. But really right now, I think it's just a matter of time. There's not an endless supply of dollars, and it's not a one size fits all solution. And sadly, I think that's what we're all facing, that no matter what you do or what you were, you're only going to have one solution that's been kind of prescribed for everybody. And that's not going to cut it for a lot of us.
I went to my dry cleaners today, and they've closed down. They're only open 2 days a week because they say no one's wearing suits. No one's getting suits dry cleaned or dress shirts laundered. I have worn a suit every day of my life, at least 5 days a week for the last 30 something years. And I've worn a suit 6 times in the last 8 months. It's a big change.
What a sign of the times. I mean, that's significant. And I get back to the idea of how it changes our behavior, and the sense of urgency is no longer there. Everybody's reflecting and looking in right now. They're doing massive home renovations. They're improving the quality of their life in the area that they can control. And I totally get it. I'm one of them. I'm doing things to my house that I thought I never would. Certainly helps, the big box stores and renovators. But when it comes down to the day-to-day that we normally would have encountered as a part of our routine, our behavior's changed. It's shifted significantly. Maybe we're a little tighter with what we're putting out into the world. We're holding back some funds because we don't know. And that's probably a logical thing to do, and probably not a great thing for a shop owner to say on a radio show. But I want to be sensitive to the fact that we're not here just for the dollar. We're here because it's part of community and we care. Like, we've done a bunch of stuff at our shop to be able to help over COVID. We had, fill a trailer with food for the food bank. We've done fundraisers. We've supported organizations because our community is everything. Like, we even right now we're doing a program in Port Credit, actually all of our locations, that if you show a receipt from a local business, that we're going to discount your service at our shop. Can we afford to do that? Not likely. But it's a piece of a small gesture that we can at least say that collectively we're all trying our best.
So collectively, we're all trying our best. So you're trying to connect with the collective and strength together. You talked about holding back some cash reserves. You talked about an online presence. You talked about pivot. What are some of the other things that you think you and other businesses need to be doing to manage through this time period?
I think we have to be advocates for each other, and we have got to be a voice to all levels of our government to make sure they understand exactly what we're going through, because not always is the picture very clear. What could be good for somebody is not good for the other person. And I think if, this is happening in our Port Credit community, which I'm really excited about, but we are collectively raising our voices and saying, this is what we need. Let's be clear. Deferrals aren't going to help us. Interest-free loans certainly will be a Band-Aid for a while, but at some point when everybody's expecting us to be back to normal, recognize that normal is not going to be part of that equation. Just like when we reopened and everybody expected us to be busy, not always is it what you see and what you think. So I think that's an important piece of this. The other part of it is that, our landlords for our locations, as soon as the doors were open, expected full payment, and then as soon as rent relief was gone, expected full payment. However, we're still down in some cases 50, some people are 70%, 80% down in revenue, but there's an expectation that they can still afford all of the cost to operate their business without that revenue hit. So I think, collectively we advocate with each other to be able to let everybody know what it is we need. But I think, independently, we've got to be very creative in the way we run our businesses, maybe adjusting schedules, working out that online presence, making sure people can get what they're looking for, helping them, kind of get through this holiday season, which, let's face it, if you're in retail, 40% of your sales happen in 6 weeks. And really, that's truthfully 5 weeks. 40% of your year sales happen in the month leading up to December, and then in that first 3 weeks of December. So we'll have to see what happens as a result of our healthcare professionals suggesting what we can and can't do, because it's going to have a major impact on our business. And of course, the easiest answer for everybody is to go to the online retailers that have carved their way into this space for years, and it becomes natural for us. I mean, I'm a victim of it myself. My front foyer looks like an Amazon shipping and receiving dock, and I get it. There's a convenience to that. And there are independent people and businesses that are selling through Amazon. I don't want to begrudge them anything, but I do want to recommend to our communities that if you have any interest at all in maintaining the kind of environment that our community has to offer with the shops that they have to offer, then you really have to look beyond the big box and convenience solutions and try to support local where you can. It's going to be so important for us to continue to operate.
I can't agree with you more. Shop local, I think, is going to be key. There's just no question. You've got facilities that are freestanding in Port Credit, but then you're part of not a regional mall, but sort of a retail mall downtown. Is there going to be a difference, do you think, between how Main Street retail comes back versus mall retail?
Yeah, I think that there's a resistance right now, sadly. Well, not sadly, it's everybody's personal opinion on how they approach this, but there's a resistance or at least a worry about being in an environment. So the malls, I think, are going to have a harder time navigating, whereas the storefronts, it is easy as pulling up, mask up, sanitize in and out, and you can judge who's done a really good job of protocols and safety, and then feel comfortable about your repeat visit there. I think storefronts that are on the street level will tend to have a little more traffic. And, the ones that are in malls, I think, are going to have a bigger challenge. I know that, for example, in the Queens Quay Terminal, there's a number of restaurants that can't serve right now, which means there's no traffic to the restaurants. There's a number of businesses above us that aren't sending teams or people into their businesses, so there's no traffic for there. Tim Hortons is looking at a modified schedule, which is across from us. So outside of that, we're really the big door prize in Queens Quay Terminal. As much as I'd like to think that was by design, it's by default. And, people that are coming into that space are coming in to come and see us. So we got to create reasons to make sure that they feel good and healthy and safe and happy, and, try to infuse that sense of what Cabin really stands for when they do experience us.
But when you get a bunch of restaurants that are closed and or stores that are out of business and for sale signs or for lease signs up, traffic goes down dramatically, but also you sort of get the self-fulfilling prophecy of it feels like it's a dead zone.
You can't help but feel like that. And I think it's everybody's mind that takes them right to, I can't wait till this changes, or is this ever different than it was? But if you looked at it and thought anything other than it being a dead zone, you'd be kind of lying to yourself. Reality is that when it does come back, and if and when, I'm not saying if, when it does come back, it'll be this transition and this flow that just makes sense. I don't think it's going to repeat or return overnight where the flick of the switch happens and now we've got traffic again. I think we'll see a constant build. It's our job right now to either have deep enough pockets to keep us in that game until that happens, or to come up with ways to be able to minimize our expenses, without compromising our quality and our comfort and our safety. Those are all really important pieces. I never wanted to start a business to pull back. I wanted to add to it. And I find that, the number one response from a lot of businesses is to cut the corners and pull back. And, here we are, we're investing more. I'm investing in training. We're investing in, customer service relations. We're having regular training with our teams, because we've got more time right now. This is a good chance for us to make sure that they recognize where we are. I'm connecting with my staff. I'm making sure that they're healthy and happy. But most importantly, that they're prepared for when they do get the customers in, to be able to really truly be us, and not forget where we came from.
We're chatting tonight with Louis Manzo of Cabin, a barbershop and haberdashery on Lakeshore in Port Credit and also in Lakeview. We're going to take a break for some final messages and come back with some concluding comments in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting about the impact of COVID-19 on local businesses. We're chatting tonight with Louis Manzo of Cabin, a barbershop and haberdashery down in Port Credit / Lakeview. And it's been, Louis, I think an interesting conversation because you've given us a bunch of suggestions. You've talked about pivot. You talked about online presence. You've talked about reducing expenses. You've talked about investing in training and for the future. You've talked about government programs and how critically important they are. You've talked about community and appealing to your community. So I think you've got a bunch of excellent suggestions for companies that have got to think through how to survive during this time period. But maybe I could come back to one of the other conversations that we had about community, because you do a job very well. I think uniquely well in regards to reaching out to the community. And, I think about Johnny Bozzo at La Villa Bakery and Paint the Town Red. He really commits himself to the community and does an unbelievable job. But a lot of people don't. And I think about a barbershop. I can understand how you want to have that community connection. But I would have thought most restaurants would want to do that. A lot of other establishments would likely want to do that. And a lot of people don't invest in building community. Why did you decide to invest such an incredible amount of time and effort in all these events and all these community building endeavors?
Well, for me, it was like, there's only one thing that really matters, and that's guest experience, our customer experience. And so as much as I can control that inside the shop with our team and how people are received when they walk in, how they feel when they leave, and then what we do to market to them afterwards, I recognize that, in fact, we don't need to market anything. We really just need to be ourselves, our true authentic selves, and create environments that make us feel very proud. And so that for us was number one. Number two was to move away from traditional communication. Here I am, an advertiser. I've been marketing for 22 years with my own agency, longer before that. And I really put into play the fact that experience wins over everything. It's going to be the best form of marketing, so that people that get excited about what their experience was, they're likely going to go tell their friends, and then their friends will talk about it. And so for me, adding events and creating a favorable night, for your friend or your family in my environment was a no-brainer, and I quickly recognized that if we do this en masse and we do it regularly, then people will find reasons to come for us other than just a haircut or to buy a pair of socks or underwear. They're going to come to us because they feel comfortable. And so my goal was to create a space that could have and host regularly, something that the community could benefit from. Just by being collectively, together, there was a benefit from it. But if we could tie ourselves, like I said earlier, to an outcome, like a charity or a cause, then that would be a nice way for us to support that cause and use our reach, because, we've got thousands of people that have joined, our mailing list. And the mailing list is really an invitation list. It's only to invite you to our events. We don't try to sell product on there. We don't try to sell services on there. We just really want people to know who we are, so that if they feel like they can connect to us, then we've given them a good reason to. even right down to the environment in cabin. We've actually created that space so that the moment the barbers are finished and the lights go off, it can be a fully functional event space where organizations can come in and host on their own in our space. You know, we could bring in caterers, we could bring in smart servers, and give them the opportunity to use this in unique environment to be able to do what they'd like on their own. So for me, it's always been part of the mix. It's just that experiences really lead to a referral, and the referrals lead to chatter. And one of my most, happiest moments is recognizing that, if it comes to holiday gift giving, or it comes to, personal, birthdays or Father's Day or Valentine's Day, life events that people give gifts for, if there's a chance that cabin made its way into that conversation or under that tree or in that box, then I'm like super excited, because that means that we were the solution for somebody to give an experience, and they would open that up together and talk about it. And all of a sudden we're making our way into the dinner table at people's homes. And with any luck, if we've done a good job, like I say, it's a great experience and it's a great conversation. So I treat that and the events the same way. It doesn't matter if you're walking into our shop for a haircut, or if you're coming in for Cabin Fest, or you've come in for like an autism charity or a first line or frontline worker charity. It's always got to be the same. I want them to walk out feeling exactly the same. Great.
But Louis, your experiences are different. There's a great book called The Experience Economy, which talked about how experiences are so critically important. And yeah, you're doing that, but they were talking about trips and times like that. Your experiences, I think, are different in that they really are experiences with and about other people. It's all about building connections and building community. The fireplace where you encourage people to do a s'more, or the walk around food stations, or just the hanging out around the barber shop chair. Don't you think that's something special that a lot of people don't think about?
I think it's hugely special. And I think people tend to look really big when they think about what they're supposed to do. My advice is to do it in bite-sized pieces. Even the greeting that happens at the door needs to be an authentic experience. It has to be real. And a lot of retailers or shop owners haven't grasped that, which is a bit of a shame, because to me, it's our chance to create these bite-sized moments, bigger when we want and we can. And I can't wait to be able to do that again. But for now, it comes right down to, what did I just give you that you can digest, that really is making you feel like this was a good place to be and worth your time and worth your conversation afterwards. They always say that bad experiences travel fast. And I like to think, good experiences can travel as fast, if not faster, because they are few and far between, unfortunately. So if you master it and you do a good job of it, then you're going to stand out. And that's where I think people have an opportunity, even if they don't have the wherewithal to have, an event like Cabin Fest. They certainly could do something on a smaller scale that can definitely make their customers realize how important they really are.
Louis, thank you so much for joining us tonight and talking about cabin and marketing and what to do during COVID-19. If people want to either book a haircut once we come back, or buy some Christmas gifts, how do they do that?
Yeah, we just launched our commerce site, our product site, which you can view all the products that we have available in the stores, as well as book a haircut in one of our shops. It's cabingoods.ca. That's cabingoods.ca. Be happy to have you guys shop.
I got to tell you, I don't even know whether it was last Christmas or 2 Christmases ago, I got some incredibly good men's underwear that is the best thing known to modern men. So from your store. So I highly recommend it.
I like when we can outfit our guys.
This has been the Brian Crombie Radio Hour with Louis Manzo of Cabin, Barbershop and Haberdashery, talking about the impact of COVID-19 on on Port Credit and on Main Street. And, if I could underline one of the things that Louis mentioned, and I think this is really true, it's going to be tough for a lot of these businesses to survive the next couple of months. And all of us are still going to be buying Christmas presents. A lot of them are completely reliant on the sales they're going to make between now and Boxing Day. And so, spend some of those dollars, not on Amazon, not on the big websites, not at Costco, but at your local businesses, and either in person or check them out online. And maybe even some of those restaurants, buy a gift certificate or two, because we want to have these beautiful environments in Port Credit and Streetsville, elsewhere around our city that we have today, or at least we had yesterday. We want them in the future. And so let's support them. Let's support local. Louis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.